Welcome to the Relationship Revivalist podcast. My name is John, and I'm here with my wonderful wife and co-host, Jess.
Hey, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
So, we just experienced
New Year's.
That's right. And we had an amazing New Year's. We got to hang out with family, and it was a really good time. And, family means that we have relationships.
Yes, lots of different kinds of relationships in a family.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so some of these relationships, and we've covered this a little bit before, some of the relationships that we have, whether they're just, fair weather friends, or we have coworkers, or we have just friends that we've met along the journey of life.
Or very, very close friends, spouses, family members, so many different kinds of relationships.
Yeah, and so the ones that Jess mentioned are those relationships that we really want to invest in. We want to make sure that these relationships are good and that they keep growing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, a lot of times it's really hard for people to see their families during the holidays because of it might, inflict a lot of stress to see certain family members because of things that they've done or said or roadblocks in the way of your relationship. And that's kind of what we're talking about today a little bit.
Yeah, so we want to give you some advice on how to handle family members that may not know how to act, may not know what to say at the right times. And of course, there are handicaps with every situation. But, as a general rule, and you can really just trust the general rules and then just modify as you go. But when you have a relationship, say it's a family member, say it's a really good friend that comes over to family things, and they say things that are just like, what? Or they say things that just don't make sense, or they're just out of line. How do we handle this in the real world when we're not just listening to a podcast like we are now? We're out in the real world. We're talking to friends and family that we really care about, and these people we want in our lives to grow these relationships, right? So how do we handle this, Jess?
Well, John, you have a couple choices. When somebody says something to you that you don't really like, or they do something, and we're not talking about, something outrageous or outlandish that you'd have to get the police involved with or anything like that. It's totally different method and route. But we're talking about, maybe somebody in your family says something to you and it just rubs you the wrong way. It's like, oh, they did that again. They said that again. That happens in any family. And in that case, you have to decide whether or not the relationship is valuable to you, if you want to continue with that relationship, because you have a couple of choices you could make. You could just not say anything and just really never see them again and avoid them at family parties and
get-togethers.
Events. Yeah. Or you could put value on that relationship and confront in a loving way, of course, but let them know.
Yeah, we're not going to go duke it out, right?
No, no, not be good. But let them know, what they did, how it made you feel, and that you didn't like it. This weekend, in fact, I had a family member who I've had to, let them know how it's going to be, kind of lay the rules down a bit, lay some boundaries down for them. And this person, John and I were talking close in each other's ears because we were at a family function. We didn't want to, shout. It was a little bit loud. And we had something important that we needed to discuss just really quick before we said anything else to somebody. And this person came by and I heard that person say something to the effect of, now, none of that. I think she thought that we were just canoodling or something, but no, it was really a serious, kind of a serious thing that we were talking about. And
and so our body language does a lot of talking as well, right? So we're like in that situation, our backs were to where that was coming from.
Exactly.
And it was almost like a reach out for attention, or I don't know what else, but
That makes a lot of sense.
to your spouse privately.
Now, if she had kept it up, I would have said something.
People should realize that that's your space, and that just to leave it alone until you're...
That's it. But she let it go. She walked past, and I let it go too. So that was one really minor situation there. But I have had to let her know how it's going to be in the past. And that's part of being a united front. Neither one of us stopped to acknowledge what she said. We just continued talking because we valued our relationship as a united front together.
And if you're wondering what our united front is, we did have that all taken care of in episode number 3. So that go ahead and go back and listen to that after this one, and you'll get a little bit more information on why you need to have a relationship that has a united front with you. And going back to this situation here, your body language, like I said, is very key in who's allowed to come into the conversation, who's not allowed to be in the conversation. And as you start putting these boundaries down, you start having a relationship that you're creating, you're not letting happen to you. That I see so many times. And, the people that you hang around the most actually give you a lot of the experiences that you've seen or you've observed, and you can either agree or disagree to them. And, sometimes when you're hanging around family members, you see some things and you're like, I wonder if that should have been changed one way or another, either by their parents stepping in and say, hey, this probably shouldn't happen anymore, or vice versa, where like the parents can be very much uplifting and say, this is the kind of behavior that I love to see. We don't, as Americans, I will just put it as Americans, we don't see enough of the uplifting chatter that, like just going to your family member or your spouse or your son or your daughter or any relative or friend. We don't see enough of the uplifting, encouraging words. Yeah, sure. Maybe you do that at Johnny's baseball game, right? It's like, oh yeah, good job, Johnny. But what about, when you go to a school event for Johnny's sister? Mm-hmm. And she needs just as much encouragement as Johnny does on the baseball field or on the basketball field. So this is a thing that I think we should change this year. Since we're in the new year, we should really think about what are we going to change about our lives that's going to make everyone's life better this year that we're in right now. So along those lines, do you have anything else to add?
I was thinking about when we were talking about little Johnny on the baseball field and saying, if that was the only time that he heard "Way to go, Johnny," is that right? And I was thinking, no, because yes, of course, we want to encourage our children and encourage our family members when they did something great, but also encourage them because they're a good person. Because of who they are. It's really important that we don't just tell each other what a great job we did or that we're proud of you because of, something great that you did. Mm-hmm. We need to really acknowledge who they are as a person.
Yeah. And give them some value. They want to have value in this world. And, I heard a statistic that, I don't know the exact statistic, but a lot of reasons why people will go and commit suicide is because they have no perception that they're loved.
That's so sad.
And, can you imagine not feeling loved? And one way that you can offer love to your spouse, and this is a great way to save a relationship, a marriage, is start finding the good in them and making it known. That's where everyone drops the ball. Is they don't make it known. They just don't think, I like my spouse. He or she does this very well, but I'm never going to say anything. And that's where the ball just gets dropped and repeatedly. And then you end up seeing divorce papers, being able to uplift each other and not tearing each other down.
Yeah, John, that made me think about another event that we went to this weekend. It was a funeral.
And breaking up as much, perhaps. I I'm not the biggest Hollywood aficionado, but, you see people that are getting married late in life. They're not just going out to get married and being just able to do whatever married couples do.
It made me think about, what if that funeral was the only time that we told him how we felt about him?
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I really don't believe it was, because he had real true friends and real, but don't let a funeral be the only time that you say wonderful things about a beloved family member or friend. So, it's really important that we keep an ongoing dialogue of how wonderful someone is, especially if they're really, really close to us, like a spouse.
Yeah, this person that we went to go pay our respects, was a great storyteller. He was always happy and always playing jokes. And I remember when Jess and I first got together, we went over to her mom's brother who had lost his spouse. And, I had lost my spouse a year or so prior to that as well. And so I ended up going in and talking to him and say, hey, you really got to let this go, and not necessarily let it go, but you have to grieve properly, and then you have to start putting yourself on a path to heal. And if you don't do that, then you're going to keep festering that wound that's on your soul. And so the whole point of this was to tell you that this person that we recently went to pay our respects to, he introduced himself, and then not more than 5 minutes later, he was razzing me because, we were having a chat about politics. And, that's one of those subjects that we don't like to go into because, if you have a room full of left or rights or whatever, it can get heated. And so he was actually playing devil's advocate, and I hadn't known this until I asked Jess.
Because he had just met him.
Because I had just met him. But yeah, and so it was eye-opening. I had to learn to kind of dance on my feet a little bit. But yeah, this was a good, and he was a great guy. And I wish he was still here. Because I really didn't get to know him that well. We see him at functions. And that is just, I don't know what else to say about him. He's just an amazing guy. And
yeah.
So we were chatting about just uplifting each other, right?
Uplifting each other, how to handle conflicts, especially family conflicts, in a healthy way. And just really enjoying each other, enjoying who it is that you spend a lot of time with. Enjoy them as a person.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to wrap today's episode up. And always remember, you can go visit us on the web at therelationshiprevivalists.com. And if you'd like to find us on social media, you can definitely do that at the blog. We have all of our links on the blog. And just for your information, we do have an ebook coming out that we're going to put on our website. And go ahead and go to the website and download it. It's free. All we want from you is your email address. And if you'd like to, put your name in there as well, and we can communicate together on email. But yeah, that's the next step here. We're going to give you some more value and help you with your relationships. So that is all for today. And we will see you on the next podcast next week.
See you later.